Welcome to the Brilliant Humans podcast, where we celebrate extraordinary people. But here's the catch. No one's talking about themselves. Every guest is here to share the story of a brilliant human who shaped them, inspired them, or changed their life forever. They might be famous or completely unknown, alive or no longer with us, a teacher, a parent, a stranger, a leader, a friend. These are real stories, honestly told. Stories of kindness, creativity, courage and connection, because brilliance deserves to be shared. This is the Brilliant Humans podcast. Welcome to the show. In this episode of the Brilliant Humans podcast, I am delighted to welcome my old mate, Lloyd Hollett. Lloyd is a professional funny man working as a stand-up comic, TV warm-up act, voiceover artist, compere and panto star in a career spanning over 3 decades. When he's not making people laugh, he loves gardening and grows echiums. And today, Lloyd is here to celebrate a person he first discovered as a young man and who he sees as the brilliant human who inspired him to achieve the comedy career he has today. Welcome to the show, Lloyd.
Oh, I'm exhausted listening to that. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm hot. I'm very hot. I've got the fire going, and a bit premature. First time this year, but So I'm really good. How are you, mate?
I'm very good. I'm so glad to. It's so weird, but it's so lovely having you here. But it's so weird me kind of interviewing you, because usually we're just sort of chatting. But today I'm interviewing you as part of this new podcast, the Brilliant Humans podcast. So thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Looking forward to it, mate. This is a great idea, and we need some positivity in the world. So yeah.
I mean, that's the idea. And I said echiums, right? Did I? What? I have no idea what an echium is.
So it's a North African plant. You normally get them in places like Madeira, and they get very, very tall. You know, my auntie, when she passed away, she used to grow them, and when she passed away, I took a cutting from her garden and put them in my parents' house, and we've grown them over the years, and they just take off, really. And I've got a cutting in my own garden, and I measured mine yesterday, and it was, how tall would you say it was, my friend, in meters?
3?
19. Oh, yes.
I don't know my echiums, but you know your echiums. But we're here to talk about a brilliant human. We're here to celebrate someone that you very quickly said, this is my brilliant human. So I know who it is, but I know very little about them. I know very little about how this person's inspired you. So why don't you tell us, Lloyd, who is your brilliant human?
Well, tonight, Jonathan, my brilliant human is the one, the only, the legendary Russ Abbott.
Oh, my word. Now, so some people might not know who Russ Abbott is. This is the sad thing. I mean, I remember Russ Abbott, and we'll talk about my memories of him, but just tell us a little bit more. Who is Russ Abbott?
Russ Abbott is still a British entertainer. Kind of rose to fame in the 70s as a actor, comedian, singer. Initially started out in a comedy show band called the Black Abbots, and ironically, he ended up with a show called Summer Madhouse. And Freddie Starr was due to kind of be the star of this show. They were kind of building Freddie Starr up, and Russ Abbott was kind of also another character on the show. But the way it panned out, Russ ended up being the star of the show, and hence Russ Abbott's Summer Madhouse developed. The Russ Abbott Show was very big in the 70s, 80s, well into the 90s. He would do summer seasons, touring all over the UK, and just a true British family-style entertainer. You know, your families would sit down on a Saturday night or Friday night, I think it was, with Russ Abbott, and watch his shows, comedy sketches. Les Dennis was a part of the show. Bella Emberg, another brilliant actress. Sherry Hewson, star of Loose Women now, and Jeffrey Holland, people like that. And he was just, as a kid, I get goosebumps now thinking about a Friday night when, even before his show would start, it would be Paul Daniels' Every Second Counts, the game show, prior to his show. So when the show Every Second Counts would end, I get goosebumps. I can imagine hearing the music, the score for Every Second Counts, the credits going up, and I'm like, oh, it's going to start in 2 minutes, and I'd have to get everything. I'd have to get my VHS tape. I'd set the tape, press record, and now on BBC One, the Russ Abbott Show, and I would just be, as a 8-9-year-old, in my element. And Russ is without doubt the reason I'm an entertainer today.
Wow. I mean, he had such an impact on your life. But I mean, I remember this. I remember saying, I remember sitting down with my family and looking forward to the Russ Abbott show. And I remember some of his characters. So you said you were about 8 or 9. That's your kind of earliest memory. What was it as an 8 or 9-year-old watching this guy on the TV? What was it that made him so special in your mind?
Well, I think when you're a performer, I think you're born to be a performer. I think you're born with it in your blood, in your veins. Whatever helps you flourish is an interesting question mark. What inspires you? And I think watching Russ Abbott as a 7, 8-year-old, I kind of thought I loved that. I laugh at the sketches. They're clean, they're clever, they're all original. The family could watch it, and seeing your mum and dad laugh. And what I would do, I would tape the show, and when the show would end at 8 o'clock, I'd take it out the tape downstairs. I'd go up to my bedroom, put it back in my own VHS. Bearing in mind I'm 8 years of age, and I would rewind it back to the beginning, and I would pick one sketch that I knew was the funniest. I knew by watching it the first time that was my funniest sketch. They were all brilliant. And I would get a bit of paper and a clipboard, and I would write out that. I'd play, pause. I would write out the script of that sketch word for word. So Les, or as Cooperman, or Vince Prince, whatever his character was, said this. Bella Remberg brackets said this. Les Dennis said this. Sherry Houston said this. And if there were 3 characters, I would write the script out 3 times. I would never thought of going to a photocopier. You know, the thought never entered my, what idiot. And I would go to school the next day and I would cast this sketch during the playground, during break time and lunchtime. I'm like, okay, you can play Les Dennis, you can play Bella Remberg. And we would rehearse in the school playground. And the old Buckley, who I'm still friends with to this day, and we go for a few drinks now and again, he said to me recently, he said, I always thought you were a complete nutter, a lunatic. You're like casting me as Les Dennis, like, come on, let's learn this. And you would make me learn this script, and we would just rehearse it and do it and do it. And he said, but he looks back at fond memories. And ironically, in 1987, we had the big storms of 1987 in the UK. You remember when Michael Fish said there are going to be no hurricanes, and then our country fell to pot. Well, our big tree in the playground, Drapers Mills in Margate, collapsed, and we were out of school for a week. And when they filled in the tarmac, there was this big concrete black slab in the middle of the playground. And when I went back to school, I said, oh, it looks like a stage. It looks like a mini stage in the middle of this. So that was my stage. That was where we would rehearse. And one day, Mr. Murphy, who was my teacher, come up to me, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, we're doing this comedy sketch. He said, okay, end the class on Friday. I want you off your script. You can perform it to the class on Friday. Yeah, you've got 5 minutes. So on that Friday, we did the sketch, and I had my first trickles of laughter as a 7-year-old. And it's extraordinary to think, you know, like where this kind of led me, because I think if he didn't do that, if he didn't encourage me in that form, would I be where I am today? I don't think I would.
Well, I think there's 2 people there, isn't there? There's obviously Russ Abbott kind of lit that flame of inspiration in this little boy, and God knows how many other comedians that are our age that are now working. You know, there's probably other people going, oh my word, that was Russ Abbott, but also Mr. Murphy. And so you go, actually, there's this big halo effect of this brilliant human. And there's 2 brilliant humans there, because Mr. Murphy giving you that chance.
Mr. Murphy was my teacher twice in my primary school days, one in 1987, and then also in 1991, my final year of primary school. And he asked me if I would like to do a show in the theatre of the school and put all these sketches together that I'd accumulated over the years and do a show for the whole class as a farewell. And it was the very last thing I ever did at my primary school. And so we did it. And of course, I decided to call it Lloyd Hollett Summer Madhouse. As you do, I made the posters with like a bit of cardboard, the back of a cornflakes packet, and a bit of felt tip pen, stuck them all around the playground. I made programs, theatre programs, like this was Act 1, this was Act 2. I charged the kids to buy them 20 pence, right? I had David Samwell, who works in Tesco's Extra in Margate. He often reminds me when I see him there. I'm at the fruit and veg. He was on the sound and lights, doing all that. So I employed all these dancers. I thought, go big scale. We're going big scale. Mr. Murphy filmed it with my dad's camcorder, and he's standing on the horse. What's the rocking horse? Not the rocking horse. The pelmet thing.
Oh, the pommel horse.
Yes, you're a sport man. You know the lingo for this. And he filmed it, and that's the clip I sent you. And I had my first one-man show when I was 10 years of age.
Wow.
And it's about 35 minutes long. And it's 90% Russ Abbott, 10% Brian Connolly, another one of my comedy greats, heroes. But I watched it I dug it out recently. I can't believe the confidence. It's really extraordinary. It's like, and you watch it, and there's comedy sketches, there's songs, because he was singing. He was a variety performer. So many people say to me, "Oh, if you're a comedian, you can't sing nowadays." Well, no, that's because comedians nowadays, that's how they're built up. That's how they come about. There's not many variety performers in the world. Russ Abbott was one of these. Freddie Starr was one of these. Michael Barrymore. Look at Bruce Forsyth, Les Dawson, Ted Rogers. There's so many comedy greats, and so that was the clip I sent you, mate. Yeah.
I mean, through the magic, we're not going to play all 35 minutes, but through the magic of editing, let's just have a quick look at a little bit of that show. I mean, that is incredible. That is incredible. And all from Russ Abbott. You kind of mentioned the variety thing. Do you know, my question here is, do you know anything about how he got into it? How did Russ Abbott become the performer that he did? I mean, you mentioned he was in the band. So was he always variety, or did he come through acting? I mean, what was his history?
Always been a variety performer. I think when it's in your blood, it's in your blood. And with the Black Abbots, he clearly was a genius. But I think he really stood out as exceptional, like a comedy genius. And Russ had always been very frustrated because he's always wanted to be an actor, as a serious actor, and taken serious as an actor. But of course, when variety's in your blood, it just, nature takes its course. And that same year, mate, my family used to take me on holiday to Bournemouth every year because my mum wouldn't go on a plane. She was scared of flying. So we happily went to Bournemouth, 10 years on the trot. And that same year when I did that show at school, we went to Bournemouth, and we used to get a brochure come through the door about July time telling us where to stay, where the B&Bs were. And at the back of the programme, back of this thick book, Bournemouth tourist guide, I'd open the insert and it would say full page who was top of the bill at the BIC, which was the biggest theatre, probably one of the biggest ones in the country.
Is that the Bournemouth International Conference Centre?
Absolutely. Bournemouth International Centre, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd seen a lot of my comedy greats there in previous years. I saw Freddie Starr there, I saw Michael Barrymore there. And this year, the same year, I did this show at school in 1991. And that was in July. And then August, we go there. Russ Abbott was top of the bill. To go from doing that show a month later, being in Bournemouth with my family and going to see the Russ Abbott show, when the lights went down and his overture kicked off, oh my God, again, goosebump moment. And it was just in my element, like an hour and a half. He did both halves, Bella Emberg was there. So everything that I just loved. I was like a kid on Christmas, and I come out the theatre just electric, buzzing, knowing that's where I want to be. I mean, only ever seeing him on the TV to seeing sketches live, that was quite something. And I think that kind of answered my questions even more about me being a live performer and knowing I wanted to go into that side of things.
And so you think that show in the summer of 1991, that was the moment you said, this is it. This is what I want to do.
100%. Absolutely. I mean, them days, those summer seasons went from like July to November, like 2 shows every single day, sold out shows. And Again, a different time. You don't get that anymore. You don't, you go to BIC now. You're lucky if you get comics for one night. You might get Ricky Gervais to do 2 nights, or Jimmy Carr do a couple. But no one does the summer season anymore like then.
You're listening to the Brilliant Humans podcast, where, here's the catch, no one talks about themselves, only the brilliant human who changed their life. If you've got someone you'd like to celebrate, drop us a note at brillianthumanspodcast@gmail.com.
So get this, mate. Well, it's 1996 now. Actually, I just want to confirm this date with you because I did ask the guy today. 2006, a decade later, I'd bought out 2 DVDs. The video production company, Advision TV, managed wonderfully by my dear friend Matthew Titterton. Russ asked Matthew, he said, listen, have you got the facility to transfer VHS tapes to DVD? And they said, yeah. He said, why? He said, because I want to catalogue everything that I've ever done, all the master tapes, onto DVD for my grandkids. No other reason. Just when I've kicked the bucket, here's a folder of my life's work. I've got all the master tapes from everything I've ever done from the BBC. And Matthew phoned me up, as I was good friends with Matthew. I'd worked with him a few times. And he said, we've just been asked to do this. I said, of course. And he said, would you like to help us do this? Because he says, I know you're a fan. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 100%. So to cut a long story short, Matthew brings 4 crates of VHS master tapes from the BBC archives. Every time Russ had done a show, they'd given him the master tape that was broadcast. And the 4 crates, and Matthew bought this footage, this equipment, this digital, to digitally transfer it. And he said it's going to take such a while because there's literally hours and hours of footage. And he said, well, there's no rush. He's not in a desperate rush. So I said, okay, well, I'll do it as and when I can, which I did. So now in my home, I'm transferring everything Russ Abbott had ever done, from the Black Abbots to his TV series, the Summer Madhouse, the Russ Abbott Show, every single series of that. Not only that, he's got the master tapes from like every single Raw Variety performance that he'd ever been on, the TV Times Award when he was won Variety Club of Great Britain Award, everything that was filmed. And then we got stuff like, when he would set his camcorder up at the back of the theatre when he had a summer season in Blackpool, the Bournemouth BIC, Great Yarmouth, Britannia Pier. And I'm transferring this for him and I'm editing it. So, cut it. It will be half an hour. Now that's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, Russ Abbott series 8, episode 4, 5, 6. And this was, because this stuff isn't out there. There's some on YouTube, but a lot of this isn't. So to watch it and was a privilege and an honor and a gift from God. And then Russ Abbott came to the OB truck, the outside broadcast truck in Canterbury, to edit a showreel from this footage. And Matthew invited me along because I kind of knew where everything was with these tapes. And that's when I got to meet him for the first time. So it was insane.
And what was that like? What was he like? So he walks in. How did you feel? Because this is so serendipitous, isn't it? The little boy that performed his show and was writing down his scripts got to be the one sitting, cataloguing and recording everything. And then you finally get to meet this man. Yeah. And how were you feeling?
Oh, starstruck. Out of it, like zoned out. I was trying to remain professional and compose myself because I had a job to do and I was helping him create the showreel. But at the same time, we were there for a whole day in the studio. But I remember because I was doing pantomime. I've done a lot of pantomimes over the years, and I did 10 years in Canterbury, and he did a lot of pantomimes himself. And he would tell me sketches and ideas and jokes and gags to do. He's like, this is a brilliant song sheet. Do you know what, mate? I can't remember a single thing he said to me. And for my life, I'm still mortified by that, because he was giving me comedy gold, stuff that nobody would ever know, that I could have really used and utilised. I almost wish I recorded the session on my phone, But I never thought he would do that or be like. I knew he would be wonderful. I don't think you can be that great and be up there all the time in TV and theatre and be a nasty person. But you know, he was trying to create this serious show reel because he wants to do more serious acting. So I'll be like, oh, he's like, what do we think we should start with? And I'm like, oh, what about that episode when you're in Casualty? And that's disc 84, chapter 8. And I put it out put it and play. I'd skip forward. Matthew skipped forward to 10 minutes in, and he'd play it. My God, Lloyd, you're right. I forgot about that. That's brilliant. So that we'll have that, like 30 seconds of that. And then I'm like, what about you when you did September Song with Michael Williams? Brilliant ITV series. You did a brilliant monologue there, and like disc 12, chapter 15. Yeah, Lord. So I compiled this show reel for him. Yeah. Again.
That's amazing.
It's just this story, isn't it?
It's just
madness.
amazing, isn't it? And I'm thinking back bigger, I mean, it's just, maybe a stupid question, but as well as kind of inspiring you to do the job that you do now, when you're out there performing, when you've crafted, you know, your act that you now are well known for, what do you think the biggest impact he had on your act is?
Well, I think it's, I mean, over the years, I've you know, I can be naughty, you know, when it comes to comedy. I can, like I did a show on Saturday night at Haythrop Park Warners. It was a late night show, went on at 11:15. It's a bit naughty show. And even though it's late, I don't swear. I could, but I don't. And I think it's what's rubbed off from him is the fact that you can be clean and funny and still funny without being vulgar. You know, you maybe get a few innuendos. It wasn't really Carry On style Russ Abbott, you know, that kind of innuendo, but it's interesting comedy. You could talk for hours about it. You know, they're all comedy sketches, songs, you know, they were current. He did this wonderful sketch, I remember, and I did it on this clip, and it was a newspaper sketch. He's standing at the newspaper stand, and Les Dennis comes along, and he's trying to sell newspapers. Extra, read all about it. What would you like? He said, I'll have a Sun. He said, 2-year-old, as a matter of fact. He said, no, Sun newspaper. Oh, no. Mirror? Yeah, you can buy them in Halfords up the road. No, Mirror newspaper. No. And Today? Oh, she was born last Thursday, actually. Today used to be a big newspaper. So it was all, again, wordplay-esque, and I think again that's kind of, and in fact I still remember it as a bit mental, and you wouldn't see, you know, he was of the ilk of like the Two Ronnies, that kind of, you know, a clever, witty, fun family entertainment. There are not many shows you'd sit down on a Saturday night. Russ Abbott was one of them. The Two Ronnies, Noel's House Party, always used to sit down for that.
Like you say, it was family entertainment, but everything was thought out. Every word was really thought out and rehearsed, and it had to be funny.
Yeah.
I remember some of his. I mean, everyone remembers the Scottish character he had. So, what were some of the other characters? Remind me what that character was called, and then do you remember some of his other characters?
Yeah, that was Jimmy. You know, Cooper Man. Cooper Man was famous. He was basically Tommy Cooper, and he idolised Tommy Cooper. Julio Double Glazius.
Yes.
Was another guy. And come up here and have a ball at the Latin Carnival. And I did that song. I think it might have been in the show actually.
Well, I have to say, you mentioned the song, and I've been sort of holding back on this because I don't know how this started, but I have and this is completely random. I don't think I've ever told you this, but on my fridge I have a signed photo of Russ Abbott that a friend of mine, Simon, and my wife, Lauren, who you are also friends with, that's how we met, they started having this Russ Abbott kind of fan club thing going on between them. It's so weird. And they both love the song Atmosphere.
Yes, it was
an atmosphere.
It was a big hit for us, a huge hit for us.
Oh, I mean, so he also released songs as well.
Yeah. He's had a few albums out. Yeah, I've got them on cassette tape actually somewhere, and I met him again a few years ago. There was what was it? It was a tribute to Sir Ken Dodd that I was invited to at Viva in Blackpool, and I remember Cannon and Ball were there. I met Sir Ken Dodd, and Russ was there. But it was such a big night, and it wasn't until the next morning I went for breakfast in my hotel. I'm queuing up next to Russ Abbott, and in a weird sort of way, I wish I'd said, mate, remember me? I did those tapes years ago. But I didn't. I was that 7-year-old who was so starstruck, and I didn't want to. I don't know why. I've always been like that. And I had a picture with him. Don't get me wrong. I got my friend Gavin to take a picture, and he was wonderful and charming, and he was just lovely, and just. So I'm hoping, and I actually spoke to Matthew Titterton today, who's in contact with Russ constantly, and he said, I'm going to, I told him about the podcast we're doing today. He said, I'm going to make sure Russ sees
I hope
this.
he does. And I think that's what I want from this. I want people that, no one's coming on here to talk about themselves. And that's really important and there's some amazing podcasts out there where people come on and talk about their story. They're great. But what I want from this, I want people to share brilliance and share happiness. And hopefully, if Ross can listen to this and just know that he's inspired you, and I've got a picture of him on my fridge, which is completely random.
Great.
Maybe that'll just make him smile and think, God, it really was worth it. And maybe other people will share their memories of him.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think? What do you think is the biggest lesson? I know he wasn't there really to teach lessons, but what do you think the biggest lesson they taught, that Russ Abbott taught you, that you love others to think about?
Well, I would love him to realise that, he's really had an impact. He's made me have a career. I'm 45 now, and I've managed to sustain a career in comedy, as a comedian, as a comedy actor, doing pantomimes, doing summer seasons, supporting comics around the UK. And it's all this. Thank you, Russ. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing any of that. You're so brilliant, and I just want you to know that it's and a message to people: always follow your dreams. If anyone inspires you, in whatever shape or form. It's like teachers. I say to teachers, great when teachers encourage pupils to nurture a hobby or a passion that they have or a talent that they have, because, you don't know where it's going to lead.
That's it. I think, one, it's, go and do what you, feel. You sort of said it, you're born with it. Russ Abbott was born with it. You were born with it. Go and do what you're born to do and show other people that's possible. So I think that's what Russ Abbott. But also there's another brilliant human in this story that is so important, and it's Mr. Murphy.
Oh, yes.
Because he took you and thank God he did, but he gave you that platform. Literally, and said, go and do this. And if he hadn't have believed in you and given you that show, what might you be doing right now? So I think there's two different stories there, and a surprise brilliant human in your story.
Can I, you mentioned in that, can I read you something if I can find it, if that's all right, my friend?
Of course.
Murphy, because this would be a nice little twist in the, here we go. So I uploaded this clip that we've talked about to my Facebook page, on my fan page, Lloyd Hollett Official, in June, after I'd dug out the footage and finally was brave enough to read it out, to broadcast it. And I thanked Mr. Murphy in the post, like what you just said. I was like, wow, what a teacher. And everyone around Thanet who knew Mr. Murphy, Mr. Murphy was a legend. And he somehow got heard of it, because social media, someone knows someone who's said, you've seen this, someone's mentioning you. And I received a message on my personal page on Facebook from Steve Murphy on the 24th of June, mate, this year at 22:10. Here we go. Hi, Lloyd. Thanks for liberating that video. Made me laugh so much, but there was so much more to it. From my standpoint, I saw an extremely determined individual, you, hell-bent on giving friends a good time through comedy, slapstick words, and smithing, jokes, songs. So much went over their heads, but I saw and heard the lot. Another thing, by the way, how many of those kids took a chance, opening themselves to inspection, blindly believing in you and your talent? Most of all, John Pay, who was another one of my comedy actors in the show. Wonder what he's doing now. A very timid individual who drove into the project head and shoulders. So fantastic to see. I think you enriched all of their lives quite a bit as they surfaced the wake you created. I have been watching your development through the years, and I'm extremely impressed on your achievements because they are all down to you. I just marked your homework for a couple of years. Well done. Keep at it. All the very best, Steve.
Look at that. There you go. What a brilliant human. What a brilliant human. What a brilliant teacher. And I think one of the things that I've had from the people that have been on this show is they've said, actually, it sparks. When you start thinking about one brilliant human, you start going, actually, that person was brilliant, and that person was brilliant, and actually, I think it's that gratitude that we have to have more for brilliant people out there, like Russ Abbott, like Steve Murphy.
Yeah.
And we've all got a teacher that's had some impact on us. Mine's a guy called, funnily enough, another guy called Steve Turner. He was my middle school teacher. He, I've tried to find him a few times. I just can't.
That's a shame.
But again, he lives on in me whenever I think about, using his lessons and, what he did for me. So I love that you had him. And look, to finish off, what would you say if he's listening to this? Hopefully he is. What would you like to say to your brilliant human, Russ Abbott?
Thank you. Thank you, Russ. I've got a mortgage because of you. I've sustained a career. I still aspire to be like you in every way regarding my content and be creative. And, it's that kind of Russ Abbott work ethic. I endeavour to be the best I can, be as original as I can, as inspiring and clever as I can. And thank you, Russ.
No, I love it. And as you were talking there, I was just thinking about the multiplying effect of his humour and his comedy and his skill, because you're now doing that and you're making people laugh night in, night out, all over the country, all over the world, with your cruise ships and stuff. And how many other comedians might say thank you to Russ? And it's that multiplying effect of, and it doesn't need to be laughter, it could be kindness. Like you say, you be kind to someone, they might be kind to 5 other people, they might be kind to 5 other people. You inspire someone, Mr. Murphy, inspire that kid, they might go on and inspire. And so this is the stuff that we should be spreading. And and this is why, we're doing this today. So, Lloyd, thank you so much. I mean, this has been a real trip down memory lane for me, mate, as much as it has been a great opportunity for you to sort of share your story as well as Russ's. And I really appreciate you coming on. So continue doing the great work you're doing, my friend.
Thank you, mate.
And I will see you. I'm coming to see Thursford now. So this year.
You've got your tickets. You've got your tickets.
So I'll see you then. But in the meantime, love to you and your family, and thanks again.
Thank you, mate. I've loved it, and you're brilliant. So thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brilliant Humans podcast. If you've got a brilliant human you'd like to celebrate, then email us at brillianthumanspodcast@gmail.com to find out how to share their story. Or if there's someone you'd simply like to thank, why not tell them right now? It might just make their day. See you next time.